Welcome to the Plant-Free MD podcast with Dr. Anthony Chaffee, where we discuss diet and nutrition and how this affects health and chronic disease, and show you how you can use this to optimize your health and happiness, both mentally and physically. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Anthony Chaffee here again with another episode of the Plant-Free MD podcast, and today I have a very special guest. Goes by Dave Mack, and Dave, thank you very much for coming on. He has a podcast, the No Carb Life or Zero Carb on YouTube, and many people may be familiar with his work. So Dave, thank you very much for joining me. Welcome.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. So for people who haven't come across your podcast, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a 48-year-old guy, Australian guy living in Japan, and I had a bit of success over the last 9 months with the carnivore diet. And after I started to have that success, probably about 3 months in, I was so excited about it that I wanted to post and, kind of tell everyone, hey, hang on, we're doing it wrong. We're doing this diet wrong. We should be, eating more meat. And so that's kind of where the channel started from. So, yeah.
Oh, very good. So what brought you to a carnivore diet in the first place?
So basically what happened is June 3 last year, I saw my doctor and he gave me some bad news. He told me that I was likely pre-diabetic and I was also drinking way too much, which I already knew, but it was kind of shocking to hear my doctor say it. And he wanted to put me on a special drug that made you physically ill if you had any alcohol. The drug's called antabuse. And that really kind of shocked me into, okay, I need to kind of take charge of this. And so that led me to keto. I've done keto before. I've done low carb. I did Atkins way back originally in like 2000. And so I thought, this diet, whenever I've done it before, I always feel like I've got a lot of self-control. And, giving up alcohol, self-control is the thing I need. So I went on the keto diet and started changing my routines and habits. And I got off alcohol, and I was doing I was doing all right, but I was experiencing stomach upsets, and I was spending longer in the bathroom than I wanted to be. So I started looking around and trying to work out what was going on because I hadn't experienced it before when I'd done Atkins or keto in the past, and I think it was a video by Ken Berry, and he was talking about how particular vegetables cause different reactions, but one of those is gastrointestinal upsets, and the vegetables he was describing were ones that I was eating. So it was like red peppers and yellow peppers and stuff like that. And I was eating these because it was like, if I mix this in with the meat and the eggs that I'm eating, this is going to give me the vitamin C that I need, And so I thought, okay, well, he's saying that this is probably causing the problems that I'm having. So I'm going to give this up for a while and see what happens. And I gave it up, and of course it stopped. And I've just been carnivore ever since.
Oh, well, very good. So, what are the sort of the health? Obviously, some GI issues resolved, but what else did you notice after you went on to a full carnivore diet?
The first thing that I noticed was improved sleep. So just some general things that I had noticed on low carb before, like improved sleep and stuff like that. But there's many things that I can talk about, but the biggest thing was improvements in kind of body functions that that were an issue for me because of a stroke I had 30 years ago.
Okay. Mm.
So I was 17, I had a stroke, and after that had happened, I've just for 30 years I've lived with balance issues, issues walking, issues with strength on my right hand side, generally coordination, like walking up and down stairs was always a nightmare.
Mm.
Not that I couldn't do it, but like I was always kind of fearful I'm going to fall.
Mm.
And so I always kind of would make sure that the handrail was close to my left side, because my left side is the side that now, even though I'm right-handed, my left side is where I would react quickly. So if something happened, so if I did tumble or slip or something, I knew that if my left hand's near the handrail, I'm probably going to be all right.
Okay.
And since I've been on the carnivore diet, I don't even think about that anymore. I've got no, I've of course have still got a weakening on my right side, but I don't have the balance issues anymore.
Mm.
I run down the stairs. I can go up the stairs two at a time, things like that. I don't have to worry about a handrail. It's life changing.
Yeah. And it's amazing too that you had this stroke, 30 years ago and neurological issues since then. And then 9 months on a carnivore diet, and all of a sudden, 30 years of neurological issues are gone. That's absolutely amazing. It's great to hear. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. But for those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. And it feels like, it feels like it's not just an improvement that's happened and that's it. It feels like this is gradually continuing to get better,
Mhm.
Because every day I kind of notice like, oh, I never used to be able to walk or run this fast.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I felt this power. Like, um, running is something that, I can't even in high school, I don't think I could run as, you know, fast or with as much kind of staying power as I can now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, something yeah, obviously, you know, subarachnoid hemorrhages can be devastating. About a third of them are fatal, and a lot of other people are left with permanent neurological impairment, but apparently not necessarily permanent. Apparently, there is some room for improvement even after 30 years. I'm really really impressed by that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Normally, people would think that the amount of healing that your brain and nervous system can do basically reaches a certain level, and then after 2 years or so, what healing can be done is done, and that's just sort of what you have to live with after that. You can do physical therapy and
Mm,
occupational therapy to optimize your situation, but it generally is learning how to live with the situation as opposed to improving it
mm,
much more than that. And so that is very reassuring and very encouraging for people that are suffering from neurological impairments or neurological deficits due to some sort of stroke or injury. So hopefully, there are people out there listening that can be encouraged to take that up and see how it goes.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's as I say, like it is life changing. I mean, for someone who hasn't been through that kind of thing, it's hard to go, well, your balance is better or whatever. It might seem like a small thing, but
Mhm.
when you struggle to put you struggle to put your sock on your right foot, sorry, on your left foot because you can't balance properly on your right foot. It's and now it's a lot easier. I mean, it's hard to describe how much that, means.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Mm,
you, I think when we were discussing the email, you said that you'd done sort of keto Atkins previously.
mm.
Um, I wonder, and so that would have been after the subarachnoid hemorrhage. Did you notice any improvements in your neurological function just with the keto Atkins sort of thing, or was it not really until you went full carnivore that you noticed that?
Yeah, I didn't notice anything like improvements in the neurological side. Yeah, that was just after full carnivore.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because obviously being in ketosis, the ketones actually help, can help build the structural components of the brain, having more meat
Mm.
and fat. Were you like heavily meat-based sort of keto Atkins sort of thing, or
I was.
okay, yeah,
Well, so let me. I I I was relatively, but I was making up a lot of. I found that my satiation came a lot from eating, like stuff like cheese and whatever. So I spent a lot of time. I ate a lot of cheese, and I was young, and I didn't really care about what nutrition was in it. I was just like, oh, I'm losing weight. I feel happy. Um, but even the meat that I was eating tended to be more chicken based, so it wasn't really fatty meat. I'm I because I don't like fatty chicken. So mm,
hmm okay, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, as we talked about in other podcasts, like ketones, when you have high ketone levels, they can cross the blood-brain barrier and then
mm,
reconstitute to fatty acids, which are able to be used as building blocks in the brain, and cholesterol and other fats are used to myelinate the nerve axons. And this helps people in a lot of ways, and the brain just works better running on ketones also. So you can see a lot of those potential areas of improvement. And so I think it's very interesting that it was even more so that there was something else, just getting rid of the plants. Even though you had the meat, maybe you weren't eating as much fat, but there was something to do with combination of maybe more fat, more cholesterol, but also just eliminating these
mm,
these different plants that maybe have been holding you back or causing a bit of disturbances as well. So that's very interesting.
mm.
So you mentioned as well that when you started doing your videos that you sort of started like, hey, maybe people aren't doing carnivore quite right. Can you talk a bit about that? What you sort of notice and what you think?
I'm sorry. What I meant to say was like more in terms of we've been misled about this nutrition all our
Oh, I
lives.
see. Yeah.
Stop. It's not the grains that we should be eating. It's the
Ah,
you know it's the meat and stuff like that. That's what I was just so excited about it. Because
yeah.
in the past when I have done something like Atkins or keto, although the space of time that I've done it has never been as long as this. Um, I I've always given it up because it's been something like, someone will say something to me that's like, you shouldn't be doing this. You need your bread, you need your grains, you need your rice, whatever it is. Um, when I first did Atkins, there was, I mean, you're in Australia, a show called A Current Affair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it used to be on around 6:30 or something, right? And it's real kind of tabloidy journalism, right? It's like, what can we say that's just going to get everyone to watch? And back in 2000 when I did Atkins, it was like every day for they realized Atkins was becoming popular, and every day was something about how you're going to die from having this diet. And so it was just the pressure's always been too much, and I've given up before. And that
Yeah.
was another thing that really kind of drove me to no, I've got to be another voice out there getting the word out about it.
Yeah, well, that's good. So you decided that you just sort of fed up with things and started to speak out. What are some of the topics that you
Mm.
cover?
Um, you know, things like just the improvements that I've experienced,
Yeah,
but also I try to do live streams occasionally so that, I can connect with other people that are doing it or might be considering it. But the other thing is, for me, um, I've always understood medical things or scientific things more easily when I can look at them as an analogy to something else. And so I've been watching a lot of other people's videos, like your videos and Paul Mason's videos, and other people like that. And you all do a really good job of explaining things, but as you're explaining the way particular things work, as it's going into my head, I'm always kind of thinking, what's the analogy to something that I know? And to sales or to this or to that, how can I remember this more easily? And so my videos on my channel are also kind of, explaining the same kind of things that, say, you or Paul Mason might explain, but just putting it into some analogy that I understand, hoping that I can maybe get the message across more easily to someone else.
yeah. Well, that's
You
really
know,
good. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go on. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to give an example, like, for example, talking about LDL cholesterol or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the really important thing about having, a lot of voices out there is that, the way that you explain things to people may really resonate with many people that maybe they look at my stuff and go like, okay, I'm not really getting this, or maybe it sounds good, but it really hits home, when you say it. And I think that's so important. As I mentioned before we started the recording, I was hesitant to even start a channel just because I thought that there were enough voices out there. There were enough people like, Dr. Sean Baker and others that were, and Ken Berry and things like that, that were saying the things that I thought should be said and were important to be said. And there was, certain things that I like focusing on. And so I'd been on Dr. Baker's podcast very early on, and other people had found me through that. And, I like to talk about certain things in the context of, you know, plants being, toxic by nature, and us being carnivores by nature, and those things don't really get along too well. And so, I thought that maybe it wouldn't be, that there was a saturated sort of, that the market was already saturated, and maybe I didn't need to, add in anything. Maybe I didn't really have much to add, but when I did go in and I just started sort of saying these things in the way that I thought was easy for me to understand. People, like that said, hey, I like the way you're doing that too. So that worked out. So
Mm.
it's great that, you then took that and then said, okay, and then how would I best understand? Because people do think about things differently. And, the ways that you think about things and you portray things, that's going to really resonate with people more so than my stuff or Dr. Baker's stuff or Dr. Barry's stuff. And so I think it's really good. And also, I just think it's so important to have more and more and more people like yourself coming out, and myself and everyone else, that's saying, hey, this works for me. This is why I think it works. This is why I think it will work for other people, and getting more and more
Mm.
voices out there. So we can just sort of overwhelm the vegan voices, because there's like 9,000 of these people, every day on the vegan influencer side of things, that are, really pushing this, and it really is persuading a lot of people to try this. And then things like the Game Changers, Live Factory, that thing that came out. Um, it's changing a lot of hearts and minds, and I think we really need a lot of people to
Mm.
get on this side, because if there's only a few people, then it's just like, it's just a couple whack jobs. You can just ignore them. But we get more and more and more people out there, then they have to at least, address it. And now you're starting to see on different news outlets, or whatever, people then saying like, oh, this carnivore diet, oh, this is crazy, and at least having to address it and call it crazy, whereas before they could just say
Mm.
ignore it, but now they can't. There's too many of us now, and there's too many
Well,
people doing it.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. I mean, recently, like channels like I can't remember the name of it, but there's a vegan channel that I reviewed one of their videos a couple of weeks ago. And that channel recently has been putting out a lot of videos saying carnivore is dumb, carnivore is this, carnivore is that. And I get the feeling like they feel like there's a pressure to say something, which probably in the past they may not have. They just, oh, we'll just ignore it. It's just a fringe kind of thing. Um, and, you know, I guess you could look at it two ways. You can look at it negatively, oh, they're dissing carnivore. But I think the positive way to look at it is that means it's becoming more mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
I was speaking with Dr. Paul Mason several months ago, and talking about how the growth of the carnivore movement. And I said that I think it still had a long way to go, but I was hoping that in the next sort of 5 years, it would be quite mainstream. And
mm,
he was saying, "You think it's getting bigger?" I was like, I think it is." He's just like, "I don't know. I think we might just be in an echo chamber, and we're just talking to like-minded people, and it seems like there's more of us out there." But I do think that it's growing because well, first of all, I've had two patients in the emergency department that I'm reviewing for neurosurgical cases recognize
mm.
and started, and one person was like, say, excuse me, do you only eat meat by any chance? I was like, yeah, like, why do you ask? And he just, he followed me on Instagram and YouTube. He's like, oh, I really like your channel. I really like your videos. And that's something that I've been trying out. So I'm like, wow, that's great. One gentleman who actually was in with us with a brain tumor. And I hadn't been there. I hadn't met this gentleman. And I came and ran in on the rounds, and he was looking at me like he knew me. And I was like just trying to rack my brain. I was like, how have I met this guy? And so I was just doing the morning rounds and just seeing how he was doing. And I just sort of switched back from another hospital. So I literally had not been in that hospital for months. And so I really couldn't have met this guy. And he was like, "Oh, Dr. Chaffee, it's really nice to see you." And I was just like, "What?" and he'd seen my interview with Professor Thomas Seyfried, specifically
Mm,
talking about glioblastoma brain cancers. And so he was just like, "Yeah, I'm going to get on that. Like, I'm doing that. I watched your Seyfried thing." I was just like, "Oh, okay, that's amazing." So I think it is getting bigger, and
mm,
oh well, and more and more. And I think a big part of that too is largely through the keto movement as well, because that has a large fan base already.
mm,
It's been around for decades. And so now the keto group is now recognizing, hey, carnivore's a type of keto,
mm,
and maybe there's something to that as well. We get rid of carbs, we get rid of sugar, but now getting rid of more things, maybe that's good too. And that's why when I got invited to speak at KetoCon, my talk was about that, like saying, hey, we've made this huge step getting rid of carbs and sugar. We need to go one more step forward and recognize that there are more things
mm,
that are bad. It's not just carbohydrates. And that seemed to have been, uh, you know, taken well as well. So how do you find that? Do you find that
mm.
it's getting more and more traction?
Yeah, I mean, even like the thing I feel is like people see this and they realize I've tried keto before and I stuck to it, but then I went, I fell off the wagon and whatever. And hang on, this thing is like keto, but it means I can eat more of what I like and less of what I don't like. I don't have to have those bitter vegetables anymore. No more spinach for me. And and I can still get my vitamin C and all this I'm going to try it. And they see results like that,
Mm.
like, um, honestly, like someone I interviewed on my channel the other day, he, his results are kind of like, I mean, his results have been more extreme, but his results have been kind of like the way I the way I did things. He started the carnivore diet. He got these awesome results, and he's like, I need to start a YouTube channel and tell people about this. And he's like, 3 months in, he's lost 60 pounds.
Oh,
And he feels better than ever he's ever felt in his life. So it's just everyone sees it. They go, oh, I've tried something like this. I'll give it a try. They get results, and they're just like, yeah, I'm in.
yeah.
Yeah.
And well, that's great. Well, hopefully he does make a YouTube channel. I mean, the more the merrier, really. I
Mm.
um I don't know. I get it's I don't think of it as like competition. I think that's sort of a weird thought. I want this to grow. I want as many
Yeah.
people as possible to be talking about this and to have YouTube channels and to talk about their success and talk about their journey.
Mm.
Really powerful. There's one of the most influential documentaries that affected the health space in recent years. What was it? Was it like Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead or something like that? It was when we went
Oh yeah.
green smoothies and things like that. And he worked with Dr. Furman, who really pushes just vegan diet sort of things. But
Mm.
what this guy did, lose a lot of weight and he came off a lot of medications and things like that. And really, what he did is he went to a more whole food diet and he did like a bunch of juice smoothies and he was eating whole food and he was cooking. He wasn't eating processed garbage. He wasn't drinking alcohol, smoking, things like that. So he lost a lot of weight, gained a lot of health, and he went around talking to different people. And you could see him in real time getting thinner and healthier. And he was just drinking these smoothies and eating, home cooked meals and talking to people and just getting better and better and better and healthier and healthier. And that left a big impact on people. And so I think that the more people that actually document their their experience with it, especially from the start, especially if they're early on and they're like, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna see what this does for me, and they see this transformation. I think that's very, very powerful. So hopefully more and more people.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so the thing is as well, like everyone walking around with a smartphone in their pocket, right? Most people have got a lot of pictures of themselves in the past and a lot of videos of themselves in the past. And so, you know, it's a lot easier when if you find you've suddenly lost the weight because you tried this carnivore diet. It's good. It's easy now to go back and go, what did I look like before? And you can show people, see, look, that's what I was like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I was able to do on my channel, even with the walking. I was able to do a side by side with the walking because, um, just occasionally when I'm walking with my daughter, my wife will video record it, right? So I was able to go, oh, that's what I was like before. This is what I'm like walking now.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's going to be very powerful. How's the response
Mm.
to those sorts of videos where you're showing your actual improvements?
Ah, really good. And the surprising thing is when I first talked about it, and that's I just had so many comments on my channel from other people who have had strokes that have seen massive improvements by doing a keto or carnivore diet.
Yeah. And then you
Hmm.
mentioned that. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was saying that you mentioned you did a response to one of the vegan videos. If I may ask, what was that about? What were they talking about?
Um, so the thumbnail was kind of, it worked on me. It was intentionally inflammatory, and so I watched it. And the carnivore, the thumbnail just said something like "carnivorism is dumb," and then the title was "Another Doctor Says Carnivore is Dumb" or something like that.
Mhm.
And so it was an interview with Garth Davis.
No, yeah, I mean,
He's a bariatric surgeon,
yeah,
and
I'm aware of him. We had on Instagram, like 2 years ago, something like that. Um,
uh,
yeah, he's an absolute tool. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Mm.
Person, he was just,
So,
he's not a
he
good person.
certainly in the interview, I mean, he comes off as the least genuine person you would
Mm-hmm.
ever see. Like it's as if in the video he is just thinking, who's my audience? How do I have to answer these questions?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not answering from the heart. He's not answering from what just he's experienced. He's just thinking, what do these people want to hear?
Just playing to the
And
crowd, sort of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the one I I reviewed because some of the things he said is just like carnivorism is dumb. It's anti-intellectual. I don't know why we're even giving this the time of day. There's no
Mhm.
studies on it. And I was thinking, well, hang on, where are your studies?
Yeah.
You know, it's um, he just he just seemed to be playing to the crowd.
Yeah. So he's yeah, bariatric surgeon. So he does weight loss surgery, and he espouses a vegan diet. And what I asked him was, if your diet works so well, why do you have to do surgery on people? Right? You know, if
It's
you're
a very good question.
yeah, you know, but the fact is that, you know, it doesn't help. It doesn't help people. It makes them very sick, and it's hard for them to eat. And you know, especially with this bariatric surgery, now the stomach small, you've mutilated someone. That actually causes huge problems. My sister had bariatric surgery, and she had enormous problems with that. She became very vitamin deficient. She got a stricture. She couldn't eat. She was vomiting. She had to get
Oh,
surgery. She you know, she was very very sick, and the and the nutritionist you know, was telling her, just whatever you do, just get as many calories. You have to get calories. Just you know, drink soda, just eat sugar, or just whatever. I'm like, Jesus, what? This is like, you know, you
huh?
this person just, yeah, this person, you know, obviously went and got, you know, surgery because they were having difficulty with their weight, and now you're telling them to eat as poorly as possible. Now they're going to get worse, you know, eating habits out of it. Like, what is wrong
Mm.
with you? And so obviously that wasn't Garth Davis, Davies nutritionist, but yeah. So, you know, I asked him that. I was just like, you know, what, you know, if your diet works so well, why do you have to do surgery? Because the fact of the matter is, I have patients that you know, if you have leptin over 100, you know, bariatric surgeons will say you cannot lose weight, you have to get surgery. And yet, putting them on a carnivore diet, their leptin comes down, their weight comes down, and their health issues reverse. I had a patient whose leptin was nearly 200. You know, they lost tons of weight, and their leptin just comes right down. They did not need surgery.
So
Send them.
just to clarify, leptin's the one that makes you feel hungry, is that right?
Oh no, that's ghrelin. Yeah, so leptin is
Leptin's the one that
so
makes you feel satiated.
exactly, yeah, and it's
Uh,
so it's from your stretch receptors, and sort of, you know, when your stomach's full, you know, send off leptin, and that's why they said, oh, you should
mm,
eat a bunch of fiber because it hits your stretch receptors and it sends off leptin, and you get satiated and you feel like you've eaten a lot, but you actually didn't get anything because there's no calories in it. So it's like, you know, it's to trick your body into thinking you've eaten something. It's like, yeah, you're not actually going to trick millions of years of evolution. Like, you're just not that smart. And if you were smart, you would just what it's supposed to have, and follow our biology and evolution and biological design, rather than trying to fool around with it. That's just silly. But yeah, so so that guy Davies, he so we hadn't had this back and forth, and he was just an obnoxious twit. But what really you know, told me everything that I needed to know about the guy was that I was absolutely just stomping him down on every single argument, on all the questions. It was just like, this guy couldn't get a point past me, and this was on someone else's thread who was also a complete twit, Nodalski, and he's just an idiot. He's just one of these calories in, calories out guys. It just does nothing matters except calories in, calories out. I was like, well, calories are different, idiot. You know, I mean, maybe you should have learned that in biochemistry. You know, that these aren't actually just, you know, we're not a calorimeter. We don't just like burn things. We don't have an internal combustion engine. You know, these are complex bioorganic molecules that have complex bioorganic you know, interactions with the rest of our molecules and chemicals in our body. You know, we're a giant chemistry set with trillions cells and trillions of molecules in each of those cells. So there's extraordinarily complex, and just boiling it down to calories is just insane because these things they have specific interactions, and there's so much more to it than that. So he's just not very smart. But so it was on that, and he was like trying to get all his little supporters to try to come after me. So I was happy for the challenge. I was just going after. I was like just debating like 12 people at a time in this one thread. And Davies, was foolish enough to jump in on that as well. And I was just slapping him down because he had nothing. What he was saying had any merit whatsoever. And so, knowing that he was losing, what he did was he blocked me so that I couldn't see his responses. So it looked like he wasn't responding anymore. And then he was responding like I didn't respond. Like, yeah, that's right. You don't have anything. You have no comeback for that because blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, really? I had another sort of alternate um, page, and so I was like, hold on a second. So I went in there and looked at that, and I saw it because someone was saying, it's like, oh yeah, you didn't have to respond to that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, he didn't say anything. And
Mm.
so I went in the other one and I was just like, oh, what a little loser. And so then, like in that account, it's like, hey, this is my alternate account. You're a coward, and it's like this is the response to all that. And yeah, and so he and Nodalski tried that. They tried like blocking me and then like responding to me like, yeah, that's right, like after they blocked me. So I had my alternative account go in there and just pick up the fight, and just to keep going. So that, yeah, they're absolute cowards, and they don't know what they're talking about. The thing is that, well, why are we even talking about this? It's like, well, you're not talking about this. You're running from this. Like you have no,
Mm.
stake in this. Like you haven't had any sort of actual, formidable debate with anyone. I mean, I trashed these guys in the comments. I had this is years ago. I had no YouTube channel or anything like that. I just, knew a lot more than them. And, and they couldn't even handle that. So the fact that, the chance of them actually having a debate or discussion with anybody who like it's publicly known that they have something to say, like there's not a chance that they'll go anywhere near that. They're absolute cowards, and because they know they're I don't know if they know that they're wrong, but they know they're going to lose, and that should be good enough. They should really reevaluate their entire life
Yeah,
choices here. If they cannot support their own decisions, their own life choices, like maybe they need to reevaluate their merits.
right. It's kind of scary that people that you trust with your life, like someone who's going to do bariatric surgery on you, is running around like a junior high school kid.
Mhm.
Just going, you said you are, but what am I?
Yeah,
You or whatever. You just said I am, but what are you, or whatever.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, the other thing, the calories in, calories out, is just something that I find crazy. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but even I can look at that and go, hang on, a calorie of, assuming that calories even mattered, a calorie of chocolate is very different to a calorie of beef, or even a calorie of a piece of pumpkin or something. They're all different. Surely your body's not going to go, oh, I don't care whether it's chocolate or bacon or whatever it is. I'm just going to treat it the same way. It just doesn't make sense.
no, and it doesn't treat these things different. There's all sorts of different chemicals in it. It's so strange to me how anyone can buy that. I mean, first of all, when your insulin goes up, when you're eating carbohydrates, or your insulin goes up, that just it completely rearranges your biochemistry and your metabolism and puts you into an entirely different metabolic state. So to go to medical school in America, you have to go through different prerequisites, and you have to take biochemistry. You have to take senior level, university level biochemistry. It's an entire year. For I mean, when I took it, it was 460. So that's the highest level, course you take as a senior in college here. And you have to do a year of organic chemistry, year of inorganic chemistry in order to just qualify to take, and a bunch of biology classes to just qualify to take biochemistry. So you need a lot of scientific background, and then you take the biochemistry, and then you learn that you have entirely you learn about the different metabolic states. You learn about how these different processes, how differently they work, and then to just completely ignore that and just be like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it does. It changes your entire metabolism. How can that not matter? And
Mm.
it when your insulin goes up, it derails everything, your entire metabolic system, and it, in layman's terms, puts you into a fat storage metabolism, whereas you used to be in a fat burning metabolism.
Mm.
So how can that not be significant? And there have been studies that show that when in ketosis, you your basal metabolic rate goes up by 300 kilocalories a day. So you will burn 300 more calories a day. You'll utilize 300 more calories a day, and you won't be storing all these calories. Also, so let's say it's just calories in, calories out, because obviously these things have a nutritional value, they have an energy component along with that. And so, you know, in excess, yes, you're going to store some, and your body does store some of these things for a rainy day. Of course it does. But to say it's just that's it, just one to one is so utterly simplistic. And first of all, if you're eating carbohydrates, your basal metabolic rate goes down, right? Because insulin's going up. And that's slow. And when your insulin goes up, your metabolism goes down, right? So you're burning less calories. So if it is calories in, calories out, well, how do you calculate that? You need like a lot of heavy sophisticated equipment from the lab. You're not just going to guess this. You're not just going to figure this out with like some home scale or something like that. Um, and so depending on the things that you're eating, you're going to put out more calories. You're going to use more calories. You're going to use more energy. And so depending on what you're eating and how much you're eating, if you eat less, that can chronically, you can slow down your metabolism as well, because you tell yourself, hey, we're in a famine. We're not getting as much food as we need. And so your body goes, right,
Mm.
slow it down. We don't want to die. We don't want to run out of our stores. And even Garth Davies will know, because this is taught and told from bariatric surgery clinics. They tell patients, you have to eat at least 1,200 calories a day or you will not lose weight, because your metabolism will shut down and will go down so low that you eating less calories will actually make you put on fat. Okay. So
Uh,
there, I thought it was calories in, calories out. Okay. Well, maybe it is calories in, calories out, but your calories out just went way down because you weren't putting enough calories in. So explain that one, Garth. So yeah, it's just entirely way too. Yeah. It's just, these are just silly to me. I mean, I agree with you. I think that they're entirely too simplistic, and just you just start scratching at the surface, and you start thinking like, there's nothing close to something as simple as just calories in, calories out. That is just never going to happen.
mm. I think part of the problem is like over the years, maybe not so much now, but over the years, the public has generally wanted simple explanations to things.
Mhm.
And the food manufacturers and other people that benefit from the public wanting those simple things are just too happy to provide it, and calories in, calories out is a very simplistic way of looking at things. So, that's easy for the public to digest, or all fats are bad rather than trans fats are bad is much easier for people to think about. And so the food industry is more than happy to tell people that.
Yeah. Well, it is easy. I can boil it down easy. Just eat meat. Pretty simple. You know?
Yeah.
And don't eat plants. You know, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of harmful things in the world. There's a lot of harmful things for us to eat. There's a lot of things that can cause harm. Carbohydrates are some of those different toxins, but you can boil that down too, because basically all the harmful things to eat are in plants and fungus and
Mm,
outside of the animal kingdom. So you can boil things down easy. It's just parsing it out in the right context. I think
mm,
it's simple when you look at our biology and what we're biologically designed to eat. And once you figure that out, it is simple. Food is
Mm.
simple to a koala. It knows what food is. It just eats that
Mm.
eucalyptus, and that's it. Same with a panda and bamboo, or a lion and a gazelle. It knows what food is. And so once you understand what food is, things get so much more simple. It's only when you go outside of that and you're not eating a biologically appropriate diet that you have to start getting in figures and calculators and equations and try to figure out your macro. We've got to calculate this and do that. Why would you ever need to do that? We haven't had
Mm.
calculators, for the majority of human existence. No animals in the wild use calculators or any sort of formula to figure out what to eat or how much to eat. There are natural processes that allow us to know, when we're eating, when we need to eat, how much we need to eat, and when we should stop eating. And when you're eating, when you get deranged on that and you get fat and you get sick and you're overeating, you're eating something wrong. If you need a
Mm.
calculator to figure out what to eat, you're eating the wrong thing. You should not have to do that. You've been eating intuitively for 99.99999% of human existence. Why can we not figure it out now?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Um, and that's something I never do anymore is worry about how much protein, how much fat, whatever. I just eat what I want.
yeah,
And it seems to work.
yeah, yeah, and it does work. So, what are you eating these days?
Mm.
What's a normal day for you?
So I only eat once a day, only at breakfast time. And I'll have between 8 and 10 eggs scrambled with cheese. And then I'll just top that with like about 600 grams of ground beef or 600 grams of sliced beef, like Wagyu beef. So it's really fatty.
Nice,
And that's all cooked in beef tallow.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that keeps me satiated all day. It's been, of all the health things that have happened and improvements I've had, one of the major things that carnivore is good for outside of health is just making you so much more time efficient and so much more productive. You don't think about food anymore and you don't spend as much time in the kitchen. You don't have to mess around and go, oh, hang on, I'm really hungry. I'm just going to pop into the shop over there. There's none of that. You don't spend a day in the office thinking about food at all.
Yeah.
And, it's just honestly, I reckon you get back 1 to 2 hours in a day, at
E-
least.
Yeah, easily. I think that that's been one of the best things, apart from how amazing I feel. That getting back that time is incredible because it takes me, 6 minutes to cook a steak. I let it rest for 10 minutes. And then I eat the thing, take my time, enjoy myself. And so call it an hour and and that's it. And I'm done.
Mm.
So I figure that, you're saving on at least two other meals. And so that's, you're eating this for half an hour, you're preparing it, you're, maybe rushing through lunch, just stuffing something down during lunch or something like that. But maybe you have time for breakfast, all these sorts of things. But on top of that, you have a lot of time before that where you're thinking about eating because you're hungry and you're like, man, I'm really hungry. I really want breakfast. Man, I'm hungry.
Mm.
I really want lunch. When is lunch? Man, I'm really hungry. I really want dinner. And you're snacking and looking for little things to get and little treats and but you're always thinking about it. So I think that time of constant focus on food is very distracting as well, and you lose a lot of time and just
Mm.
mental energy and sanity just thinking about when your next meal is, even though you just ate, an hour or two earlier, and you're already thinking, oh my God, I need something. And so I figure, yeah, you're getting back several hours where you're not thinking about preparing or eating food. And so
Mm.
it's a huge, huge gift back to your day. I'm so much more productive and I get so much more done. People ask, how I being residency and doing podcasts and doing, consultations in a private clinic, outside of my residency. Like how do you even do that? Well, because I'm not spending hours a day cooking and eating and thinking about food. I actually have time to do things. And 1 hour a day, I'm cooking and eating, and that's it. I'm done.
Mm. Yeah. The argument that some people will put up though is that, oh yeah, but beef is so expensive.
Hmm.
And but my answer to that is always, but so is it $20 a day in snacks that you're gonna spend, Like when you're in 7-Eleven all the time, that adds up too.
It does. Yeah. I think Dr. Baker just put up a post on Instagram where he was talking about, he was just showing sort of the different costs of certain sorts of, normal processed food, junky garbage. And then just showed the average price of ground beef in America. He's just like, you can live with optimal nutrition for, a quarter of the price of what you'd spend on all this garbage. It's really not good for you anyway. So beef is not all that
Mm.
expensive. It's certain cuts are expensive. You get filet mignon or Scotch filet in Australia, or ribeye. Those are more expensive cuts, and yes, you're going to be paying a premium for them. Especially when people say, "Well, I'm going to do this. I have to get the highest quality, grass fed, grass finished. Going to go to Whole Foods and just get like, well, okay, well, yes, that then you're going to be paying an exorbitant amount, but you don't need to do that.
Mm.
Ground beef is
Mm.
it's the same cow. It's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just from tougher parts of the cow that it's not going to cook up well on a steak, and so you grind it up, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. It is just as nutritious,
Yeah.
just as good for you. Costs like $4 a pound on average in America, so it's much more affordable than almost anything else. And you think about the cost of like spinach or lettuce. You get a big bag of that, and it's just like, oh, okay, so that's $5, $10 for like a big bag, and but you look at it as this like 3 ounces, because they're literally leaves. Like that's what this is. And so you have a bag of leaves. They weigh nothing, and it's like $10. And so if you look at that per pound or per kilo, it's more expensive than steak. And what's the nutritional value of spinach? Next to nothing. Maybe there's a bit of iron or something like that, but it's all bound up. You can't actually get it. It's not bioavailable.
Mm.
Really getting protein. Sure, not getting a complete protein. There's no essential fats. There's none of the essential vitamins and minerals that you need. And, well, I mean, there's some, but you're not getting a full complement. And a lot of the nutrients that are in there are completely bound up and not really bioavailable or minimally so. And so obviously, when you're comparing pound for pound, kilo for kilo, steak has it all the way. It's cheaper and it's complete nutrition. Can't say the same about the lettuce or spinach. And so
Mm.
break it down, you actually look at that and you look at, well, I'm eating a kilo of meat a day, and that's what I eat for 24 hours. And even if I do more expensive cuts like ribeye or something like that, I'm still saving money. I'm still not spending. Now you can do it really cheap and just live on top ramen or something like that. But you're going to be nutritionally deprived,
Yeah.
but you know
And you're going to be hungry all the time.
you're going to be hungry all the time, and you're going to be sick, and you're going to be miserable. You're not going to do very well.
Mm.
Eventually, you're going to get nutritionally deficient. And whereas you can eat ground beef and eggs relatively cheap, they're getting way more expensive in America because I think like 1,000 chicken farms have been like burned down just randomly, as you do. They just torch up, these chickens that are smoking or something like that. So there's something where people are trying to really mess with the food supply, and certainly the meat and egg supply in America and
Mm.
elsewhere. And I don't think that's by accident. I don't think that 1,000 chicken farms just go up and smoke coincidentally,
Mm.
when that's really never happened before. And nearly 2 dozen or so meat processing plants have been burned down as well. It's just a year for random fires, I guess.
Wow.
Clearly arson. And there are certain powers that be, or activists or extremists that are that are going nuts. But I have no idea who's behind it. But I have a hard time believing that these are all just coincidental accidents.
Hmm. It's too many happening to be a coincidence. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. But even then,
Yeah.
it's still cheap. Ground beef is still cheap. Eggs are still cheap
Mm,
in respect to anything else you want to eat. And they're complete nutrition. They're perfect nutrition. And
mm,
you don't need anything else. And so, that's what people can do.
mm.
So what
Yeah.
um, so you said you like your wife and your kids are there with you. Are they eating the same way too, or what are their thoughts on this?
No, they're just kind of thinking, oh, well, daddy's off doing his weird thing, whatever,
Yeah.
It was hard. So for me, the two hardest things to get started with this were really kind of getting my wife to understand, no, I can't eat that stuff anymore. And also getting my boss too, but that's another story because she's always bringing in like, have some chocolate. Um, but yeah, once, about a month in, when my wife understood, like, I'm not going back,
Mhm.
she's been fine. I mean, she's a nurse, so she's trained to think the opposite way about food and all that kind of thing. But she sees the results and she's quite happy for me, you know.
Okay.
And my daughter, she's 6, she's just like, yeah, you don't eat that stuff anymore, do you? So I just, whenever I have the junk food or the whatever, I just know I don't have to offer it to daddy. So,
Yeah. Yeah, probably pretty happy with that.
yeah,
Yeah, well, that's good. And I'm sure,
yeah,
she's at that, still in an impressionable age that, you know, seeing daddy do this, she's going to be interested in what you're doing and probably want to do that
mm,
with you at some point, or at least, be influenced to eat more meat, which is good. And well,
mm,
hopefully, hopefully they come around and, and just see, the great results you're getting and how you're feeling. And I mean, you have a podcast with, I mean, I don't even know how many, dozens and dozens and dozens of videos. Um, does your wife watch those things, or is just that's your time in the shed? You go do your thing, and
yeah. She knows that they're there, and I'll disappear to make a video, and then a couple of hours later come back and whatever. But she's kind of not all that interested at the moment. She says,
yeah,
this is just some hobby he's got going. So,
yeah. Well, I think it starts that way, and eventually people start seeing, because the truth will out, and you see you're getting
mm,
better results. You're more and more healthy, feeling more energetic and able to do more things. And I mean, she must have noticed the neurological benefits of you walking
oh yeah.
like that.
It was her that was looking at the videos initially when
Oh wow.
like the comparison and going, hang on, this looks different.
Yeah, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, those sorts of things, will eventually start hitting home. They're like, okay, well, this is probably to do with the diet. Maybe this is something I should consider. Um,
Mm,
how how it happened with my family. They just sort of and just when I came to Australia and when I was in Seattle, just people around me just through osmosis just started becoming being eating more and more meat and becoming carnivores,
mm,
and they started getting really good results and asking me about it and doing really well with it, and others had no interest in it, but but a lot of people in my surroundings just got more and more interested in it just by seeing my results and then asking me questions about it, and then just I think I started like a grassroots movement in Australia because no one here was doing this when I got here. Everyone was vegan or going that way, and I just sort of just through the people I was talking to, I ended up having to get into conversations and debates with people 2 3 times a day, every single day. Like it was just, and I,
oh wow.
important to do that, because I feel that this is
Mm,
an important thing for people to know about. And so I took the time to to do that. And and so just more and more people just started doing this. And then they sort of messaged me and like, oh, what about this? And what about this? And I'd help them out. And yeah, just more and more people started doing it. I turned many vegans and vegetarians from what I met here and in Seattle as well. So
Wow.
it's been good for that. I think that's helped me, with the podcast and with everything like that, because I've just had so much experience talking to people about this, explaining to them and answering all their questions and being able to just fire back, rapid fire answers. And, it's always the same arguments, always the same reasons
Mm.
why you shouldn't eat meat and you should eat vegetables and fruit. And, but these all have answers. They all have reasons why those aren't true. And so you get very practiced at telling that. And so it just got easier and easier and easier. And I started getting like a rhythm and sort of like a salesman pitch on like how I was going to approach this. And like, okay, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think now there's actually a big community of carnivores here. I met a GP at one of the conferences in Gold Coast that I was speaking at. And he was saying, he's like, oh yeah, I'm from Perth and I've got 51 carnivore patients and they all watch your videos. I'm like, oh, that's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's just the one practice. And he's got 51 specifically carnivore patients. And so, yeah, it was
Mm.
to see. But yeah, you just sort of influence people around you and it just, becomes more and more
Yeah.
interesting to people. So hopefully your family takes note of that.
Yeah. Well, that practiced answering of questions as well. That's the point I hope I can get to, in the not too distant future, because, I want to be able to just counter everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People will be able to. And it's just that's it. It just comes from talking to people. And
Mm.
and then people will ask you and they say, well, what about this and what about this? And you just have answers. And sometimes you don't, maybe. And you're just like, I think that that's right, but maybe I should go look that up. And it
Mm.
helps you reinforce your knowledge in it as well. That was why I did that, my very first video. And it's still my favorite video. And that was, because I did a debate, carnivore versus vegan diets, with the Australian College of Nutritional and Environmental Medicine, ACNM. And so I had to really hone down my arguments and just be like, okay, because we only had 7 minutes. So I had to like really bullet point out,
Mm.
what I was going to say on why we should be eating meat, why we should not be eating plants. And then I sort of did a fuller video where I, fleshed things out a bit. And I think that video covers most of the arguments that you'll see. It covers the basis on why we should be doing this, and
Mm.
counters all the arguments of why we shouldn't be doing this or why we should be doing veganism or vegetarianism or at least including plants instead. And yeah, and it just comes from just person after person, debate after debate, and just people honestly asking questions and being able to talk through the answers, and that really helps you you know structure the responses in your mind and actually think about these things. There's nothing better than discourse to really hone your thoughts and really develop them,
Mm.
because if they're not being challenged and tested and prodded at, they may fall apart, very easily.
Mm.
But you need that challenge. You need people to go, well, but what about this and what about this, and have really good arguments against you. So that, because maybe you're wrong, and that's good to know. You need to be
Mm.
open enough to think like, hey, I don't know everything, and I'm not Garth Davies. I don't think I know everything, and it's you have to be have enough humility to understand that there's the vast majority of human knowledge you have no idea of, and all the entire embodiment of human knowledge is not one fraction of 1% of the entire available information that's around. It's just not. And so having that understanding that you could learn something is very important, and then having
Mm.
people test and poke and prod at your arguments to make you reinforcement and say, hey, okay, maybe I got that one a little bit wrong. I need to structure this better, or what's a better way of explaining this that will do a better job. And you just get better and better at it. So yeah, it was just enjoy the interaction, because that's where you get
Yeah.
that polishing up of your arguments.
Yeah. And yeah, I really am enjoying the discourse so far. So yeah.
Yeah, good. Do you
Hmm.
bring like vegans and vegetarians and things like that on as well? Have you had discussions with them, or
I haven't yet. I hope to. I've really only just started doing more regular interviewing. So yeah, I hope to because yeah, I think you should be able to kind of talk to the other side and you know potentially agree to disagree and whatever it happens to be, you know.
yeah, I think so too. Unfortunately, it's hard to get people to agree to come on and agree to just have a, because I think and maybe rightly so, anytime you have people with differing opinions and you get invited on to speak with someone, hey, let's have a talk. You're always looking for an ambush. You're always being like, okay, well,
Yeah.
up or something like that, or whatever, or you just don't want to be shown up and your reputation's worth more than that interview would bring to it. So um, it's something that I think is very important to do, though. It's something we've
Mm.
lost. It used to be very normal that you'd have public debates all the time. You'd have, it's like, oh well, this person says this. We're like, well, let's talk about it. Great, meet you on Tuesday. We'll be at the town square. That used to happen all the time. Now it's very difficult. It's very difficult um, to get that
Mm.
going on. And yeah, there's one radio program in America that asked me. There was a guy who was talking about the carnivore diet. He was trying to get like a debate and get on Bart K's show to talk to him, and Professor K was just like, look, you don't have any background, you don't have any published work, you're calling yourself all these things, but it doesn't really back it up here. You don't have a big channel, you don't have this. Like, it's not really, anything I'm interested in. Like, I don't think you're really bringing much to the table. And so he made a video about that and a bash video about carnivorism, and I was on this radio program before, and the guy was saying, "Hey, would you like to come on and sort of debate with this guy?" And so I watched it, and the arguments that he was making were, there's flawed in a number of different ways, and that I could point out and be like, well, actually, that has an explanation, that has an explanation, that has an explanation. And so, as I agreed to come on and do this, even though I mean it's not necessarily going to do anything for me, but I think it's important to
Mm.
have these discourse. And this guy is actually eager. He's like, yeah, I'd love to. I'm like, okay, well then let's do
Mm.
it. Let's have a discussion. Because I think it is important. I think it is important to have people flesh out these ideas. And that was the thing. I didn't start my YouTube channel for so long because I had these conversations so many times where I was basically talking to someone and convincing them of this, de novo every single day. And so it was just like,
Yeah.
I wish I could just get someone to like, just, hey, why don't you sit down with me? Why don't we record this and then like put that up? And because I thought that would be just perfect. And so having that interaction with, well, what about this and what about this? Because those are the questions people want to know, because they're always the same questions. Well, what about cholesterol? Well, what about fiber? Well, it doesn't increase your cancer risk. Well, don't you need vegetables for vitamins? Well, all these different sorts of things. They're always the same questions, and they all have the same answers. And so if you have that sort of live discussion and you can answer that, I think that's very, very helpful. So
Yeah.
maybe you can convince someone to go on there. It's difficult. I have tried with many people. It doesn't go well.
Mm. Yeah. Maybe reach out to Garth Davies and see if he wants to come
Yeah, well, you
on.
can do that. I have no interest in speaking to that dude anymore. Yeah, I've said what I had to say to that guy. Yeah, that's great. So
Yeah.
what's the idea for the future of your channel? Where do you plan to go from here?
I don't really know. don't have much of a plan, except I just want to keep pushing the word out there, and I want to keep connecting with people that are in that are either already carnivore or are kind of you know, edging towards it. And, you know,
Yeah.
I did a live stream this morning, and it was just so nice, this kind of community feeling of people who are just getting started and people that have been on Carnivore for a few months, and everyone's trying to help each other out. I really enjoy that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think you definitely keep it up and just keep putting out the videos out there. And yeah, and your channel's growing very, very well, which is awesome to see. And haven't been shadow banned yet, like the rest of us. And so hopefully that,
Not yet, not yet. There's time.
yeah, there's always time. Yeah, you could always say something that catches the algorithm and be like, oh, about this guy.
Mm.
Yeah, I've just noticed more and more that people have been noticing saying that they're getting unsubscribed from my channel, or they're not getting notifications, or even when they search for me by name, my videos don't come up. So
Uh,
going on, but and then like on Instagram, people share my posts, and then Instagram takes them down. So there's something else going on there as well. So either way,
okay.
we're gonna keep fighting, keep going, keep pushing, keep growing either way. And that's also
Mm.
the reason for you and others to make your own platforms, because hopefully we get enough people flying under the radar and they don't shadow ban all of us, so we can actually get the message out.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the thing. The more the merrier.
Yeah.
The more people involved, and the harder it is to do that. So, mm,
Yeah, exactly right. And and eventually this becomes mainstream, and people recognize it as like, oh, actually this is the way to go. And then maybe they take the brakes off of our
mm,
yeah, I don't know. Probably not, but you can always get lucky.
yeah. I mean, if you look at it, 25, 30 years ago, low carb would have been treated the same wacky way. Everyone, this is crazy. This is, but now if you say I'm low carb, I mean, people don't blink,
Mhm. Yeah,
you know.
very normal.
So,
Yeah, very good. All right, well, Dave, well,
yeah.
thanks so much. How do people get a hold of you? The YouTube channel is No Carb Life,
The,
or at Zero Carb, and
that's right.
yeah, do you have a podcast itself as well on podcast platforms, or is it just on YouTube?
It's just YouTube at this stage. Yeah.
Okay, great. And do you have any other social media where people can find you and check out your work?
I don't have anything else. YouTube's the only thing that I've got at the moment.
I'll keep
So,
it simple. That's good. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it gets a bit more complicated with all the other things, but yeah, so that's good. I envy you. Just leave it on, on the YouTube channel and just keep it there. So great. So great. Well, Dave, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can chat again soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anthony. I really appreciate you having me on.
You're very, very welcome. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please hit the bell and subscribe and like and leave a comment. It really does help. So, and you can let us know what you think about the talk. And you can follow me on Instagram at Anthony Chaffee MD, or Twitter at Anthony_Chaffee. And or if you want to join the Patreon community, it's Anthony Chaffee MD as well. And thank you all very much, and see you next time. Hey guys, thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to what I had to say. If you like it, then please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and podcast. And if you're on YouTube, then please hit that little bell and subscribe, and that'll let you know anytime I have a new video out, which should be every week, if not more. And if you could share this with your friends, that would help me get the word out and let me know that you like what I'm doing. Thanks again, guys.